Welcome back to the HBAR Bull Case series. Over the past several years, we have put out 4 HBAR Bull Case videos, several Hedera forum episodes, and plenty of updates highlighting the potential of Hedera's native cryptocurrency, the HBAR. It's only just starting to realize some of that potential. The issue I've noticed is to prevent being repetitive, each video put out focuses on a different aspect of the tech, platform, and its potential. So all of that information is spread out over dozens of hours of content. The goal of this video, the ultimate HBAR Bull Case, is to consolidate all of that information into one source, add a few new gems, and essentially create an HBAR greatest hits. Let's get started with the amazing tech. Hedera is built on the Hashgraph algorithm, a directed acyclic graph that uses a revolutionary gossip about gossip protocol to reach consensus. Hedera's capabilities are at or near the best in class, not just in one area like throughput, but in every meaningful metric that could be used to measure a DLT's tech. The most important is security. Hedera is asynchronous Byzantine fault tolerant, the gold standard and the highest level of security that's possible, and what's more is they've proved it with a COQ proof. A COQ proof is a computer-based interactive algorithm prover that allows for the expression of mathematical assertions and mechanically checks proofs of these assertions. Proving that an algorithm is ABFT in this manner is a pretty intensive process, but Hedera took the time and effort to show the world that Hedera is built on the most sound foundation in the space. The next metric that is vitally important for a distributed ledger is finality, or when the network has reached consensus on a transaction and it's not subject to reversal. The Hedera network is currently reaching finality in about 4 to 5 seconds, even beating Visa by a couple seconds. Bitcoin, on the other hand, is only probabilistic and never reaches finality. Generally, the likelihood of a transaction not being rolled back are considered good enough after about an hour. But it's not just Bitcoin. Any platform using a blockchain structure to build their platform on cannot achieve true finality. The importance of finality can't be overstated, as cited in a Medium post by Mel's D's entitled Settlement Finality for Digital Securities, which I highly recommend reading. He discusses the establishment of digital security marketplaces, and what follows are a couple of key quotes. In the near future, market infrastructures based off blockchain technology could be established. These are referred to as Distributed Financial Market Infrastructures, or DFMI. DFMIs, just like FMIs, should attempt to adhere to a set of global principles that are laid out by the Bank of International Settlements. An FMI should provide clear and certain final settlement, or preferable, an FMI should provide final settlement intraday or in real time. When referring to the European requirements, he states that a DFMI should provide clearance and settlement of a transaction, deliver assurance of payment to the payee, and the entire process should ideally be completed in real time, which in practice means it takes approximately 2 to 15 seconds. The next aspect I'd like to point out is the fair accurate timestamp feature. Each transaction will be assigned a timestamp based on the median timestamp of all the nodes at consensus. There may be a node with an incorrect time, but the median of all the nodes should be very accurate. Compare this to Bitcoin, where the timestamp can't be trusted and aren't precise. Bitcoin block timestamps are generally only considered accurate to within an hour or two, and there's no guarantee your transaction will even make it into the next confirmed block. So why is this important? With accurate timestamps, a world of use cases opens up. A couple of examples that have been given are exchanges and video games. An exchange can't operate fairly unless it can determine the order in which the bids and asks were received for stocks, bonds, crypto, or any other tradable asset. Likewise, a multiplayer video game built on a DLT network needs to know if player 1 shot first, or if player 2 dodged first, to determine if it's a kill or a close call. These and countless other use cases are only made possible with accurate, precise timestamps that are inherent to the Hedera network. We can't talk about Hedera's tech without mentioning throughput. Again, Hedera is best in class. Currently, Hedera is throttled to 10,000 transactions per second, but it can handle many tens of thousands of transactions per second when required, as is. That said, these numbers are based on nodes using CPUs, and the volumes can be further increased if nodes utilize GPUs. And that's not all. Hedera is designed to be sharded, essentially allowing unlimited scaling. At open access, when anyone could use and build on the Hedera network, there were 3 services available: file storage, smart contracts, and cryptocurrency. In just over a year, Hedera added 2 more services: Hedera Consensus Service, think of an internet-native notary, and Hedera Tokenization Service, where anyone can create their own crypto token. It's been impressive to watch how this team and effective governance has been able to add native layer services based on the requirements and requests from their users. While there may be other platforms that have some of the attributes mentioned above, none bring them together like Hedera. The logical question that should be asked when you realize how much of an innovative leap Hedera is in the DLT space is, can it happen again? And can Hedera become obsolete when the next big thing comes along? Lehman addresses this concern when he made it clear that Hashgraph hits the theoretical limits of what is possible with a consensus algorithm. Now, onto the Hedera team. Here are some of the highlights and achievements of the co-founders Mance and Lehman. They have gathered a team that is nearly as impressive in their own right. There's plenty of brilliance in the blockchain DLT space, but brilliance doesn't necessarily mean innovation, and certainly doesn't guarantee a great leap in technology. Brilliance must be coupled with hard work, determination, and a healthy dose of luck. I think Lehman, the inventor of the technology behind Hedera, had the right touch of each of these to produce a game changer. The next point on the team cannot be overstated. This team is hands down the most professional and business-savvy team in the space. But why tell you when I can show you?
Raising the bar for the industry, we are Hedera. We consider this a mission to maximize the internet to what it can be tomorrow.
'Cause I'm the new best thing, better than you've ever seen.
Fair, fast, and secure.
Trusted transactions, whether that's voting or consensus.
First of all, it's not fairness, it's fairness of ordering, fairness of timestamps, fairness of access.
We open up a whole new genre of applications.
The speed is not hundreds of thousands. It's 1,000,000!
With the old and end with the new, I sparkle like a ruby pot of gold for you. All sugar and spice, you know I'm not nice, but I'll send you down the road straight to paradise.
Bring us your best ideas. We're ready to engage and to make this happen.
I just want to say thank you to Mance and thank you to Lehman. He has solved a very, very difficult problem. But thank you again, Mance. I really
Thanks,
appreciate
Dave.
it.
The Hedera Hashgraph technology platform has implications that stretch all the industries on planet Earth.
I'm the new best thing.
This level of presentation is what you'd expect from Apple or Amazon, and is a standout in the space. And this level of professionalism extends far beyond putting on an event. The team didn't just rest on an amazing invention. They looked at the issues that were plaguing blockchain adoption and set out to systematically address each. The organization has developed a fee structure with the proper incentives, and their promotion, communication, and development has been a breath of fresh air in a space that had some growing up to do. They have also engaged with regulators, such as the SEC and CFTC, to ensure they are currently and will remain compliant with all applicable laws and regulations. The draw for enterprises looking to get involved with and build upon a DLT network is immense. Speaking of drawing enterprise involvement, we have to talk about Hedera's governance model. Hedera has chosen to improve on the haphazard governance of some of the other top cryptos, which include the benevolent dictatorships in Ethereum and XRP, or the leading developers and centralized mining pools in the case of Bitcoin. Instead, Hedera has chosen to allow blue-chip international enterprises to help direct the path of the DLT platform. The goal is to have world business leaders, diversified across industry and geography, use their expertise based on both their jurisdiction and their field to do what is best for Hedera. In determining the design of the council, there are a few techniques that the founding team used to ensure that the corporations have the platform's best interest as their top priority. First, they are only going to allow large companies with good reputations to join the council. The expectation is these enterprises will not jeopardize their company's reputation and brand by acting poorly in the governance of a cryptocurrency platform. In addition, the relative size of these companies prevents one from having undue influence. Next, since the council members are in different jurisdictions, no single government can pressure the entire council in an unfair manner. Finally, with the exception of Swirlds, There's a 3-year term limit for these enterprises, and no more than 2 terms served consecutively. I'll admit, when this governance model was first announced in 2018, I had my doubts as to the level of corporate participation Hedera would actually achieve. With the likes of Google, IBM, Boeing, T-Mobile, LG Electronics, and 14 additional impressive companies spread across many industries and every populated continent, it's fair to say there are no limitations on the enterprises Hedera can attract, and my personal expectations have already been far exceeded. What's more is we're only halfway full, and have an additional 20 members to add before the council is full. A question that is often asked when a community member realizes that the writing is on the wall indicating massive enterprise utilization of Hedera is, can there be mass adoption of the network and the price of the HBAR remain stagnant? My answer is pretty straightforward. No. For the HBAR, there's a direct line from network utilization to the value of the cryptocurrency. Each transaction on Hedera from that adoption carries a fee. For example, for crypto transfers and Hedera consensus service transactions, the fee is 1/100th of a cent. The brand new Hedera token service transactions cost 1/10 of a cent. Incredibly low fees, but when some of our use cases are talking about hundreds of billions or even trillions of transactions, it adds up quickly. Over a year ago, Fundstrat, a highly respected Wall Street analytics firm, suggested Hedera's revenue could be upwards of $1.9 billion by 2024. Impressive numbers, and this is where Hedera's efficiency comes into play. It's not just about reducing the environmental impact of inefficient legacy proof-of-work platforms. It comes down to dollars and cents. We'll say Hedera is generating $1.9 billion in fees by 2024, as Fundstrat predicts, and we have 100 council member and trusted nodes by that time. It has been stated that it will cost about $300,000 to run a council member node annually, though this cost may come down significantly in the future. So assuming 100 nodes, the total cost of running the network would be about $30 million all in, which sounds like a big number, but is a small percentage compared to the $1.9 billion in projected revenue. This $1.87 billion could be compared to a company's earnings, which we'll touch on in a few minutes. First, I would like to compare that $30 million figure to some really big numbers. The cost of running the Bitcoin and Ethereum networks. Because they are proof of work, they must burn incredible amounts of electricity to process transactions and secure the network. The electricity costs alone for Bitcoin are estimated to be $8.5 billion per year, and $3.66 billion for Ethereum. This money is completely lost and goes to the power generators, who certainly aren't going to plow that money back into improving the Bitcoin and Ethereum networks. And this doesn't even include the sunk costs for the mining hardware and associated facilities. And there's no real incentives for miners to bring value back to the network if there's any money left over after paying the electricity bill and other overhead costs. If there's the expected network adoption, the efficiency of Hedera allows a very large portion of the revenue to be used to build the network and to compensate nodes and token holders on a sustainable basis, without the need for perpetual inflation. This brings us back to equating crypto fee revenue, less cost, to a company's earnings. We are now speaking Wall Street's language. Now, considering Warren Buffett completely missed the internet revolution, his views on investing in new tech should be taken with a grain of salt. That said, his view explains the apprehension some investors have when it comes to cryptocurrency. They simply don't know how to value it. Buffett said the following: "Both Bitcoin and gold are strictly speculative and don't produce earnings and dividends like stocks do." If this is Warren's metric for dismissing DLT tech, he may want to take another look. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like at this point, but HBAR staking rewards is a way that network value created by utilization can be passed directly to token holders. I believe that the fee revenue and the cost to operate a given network will be the main way that cryptocurrencies will be analyzed and valued in the future, and Hedera is positioned perfectly to take advantage. If the network earnings of Hedera reaches into the billions of dollars, I'll let you apply a normal price-to-earnings ratio of an exciting tech company like Netflix or Tesla to the HBAR, as I think Wall Street eventually will. But let's not forget about retail. I've noticed a simple progression of investment into HBAR for retail investors, including myself. They purchase, research, purchase more, and finally it's an all-in obsession. The issue that is just starting to be resolved is awareness, which seems to be exploding as of late. Some other sources of demand are not speculative, but but a form of rotating demand driven by adoption, such as enterprises buying HBAR to fuel applications, consumers buying HBAR to use an application, or to buy products and services via micropayments. Hedera fees are priced in dollars, making planning easier for companies using Hedera, but are paid in HBAR. The HBAR that is used to pay fees may end up back on the market as the Hedera Council sells them to further build the network. And retailers may sell HBAR if they accept them for products or services, though retailers accepting crypto often see the value and hold some on their balance sheet as a speculative asset. The effect of this rotating demand on the market is as you would expect in a supply and demand dynamic. Another thing that the HBAR has going for it as an investment is it has plenty of things to look forward to that have already occurred for other cryptocurrency platforms. For example, many of the top 50 tokens are already listed on the top American exchanges, Coinbase, Kraken, and Gemini, but Hedera has yet to be listed. There's a good chance that they will be, and when they do, new buyers will have access to HBAR. It seems as if the main HBAR market is in the US, so getting listed on these exchanges may have an outsized impact. In addition, as the Hedera market matures, there's the potential for funds like the Bitcoin and Ethereum Grayscale trusts to offer HBAR, and eventually maybe even ETFs and other products. All in all, Hedera has a lot to look forward to. Anyone interested in HBAR should make themselves aware of the tokenomics. It's prudent to read and understand the HBAR economics white paper put out by Hedera, but here's the bottom line. Hedera has a gradual, multi-decade disinflationary distribution that ends with a hard cap of 50 billion HBAR. About 17% has been distributed to date, a comparable percentage to Bitcoin's 2 years after their launch. So here we are, nearly 2 years after Hedera Open Access, still with the amazing tech and team, and excited about the potential. What we have to determine now is if we are on the right path to gaining mass adoption. The first indicator is the transaction volume, which is the highest of any crypto platform on Earth. But what's more fun are the actual real-world use cases that have already been announced. If you're new to Hedera and have been impressed with the enterprise adoption of any other platform, hold on to your hats, because what we're about to go through will cause a seismic shift in the expectations around what is possible in the crypto industry. So let's dig in. Animoca Brands recently raised $88 million at a valuation of $1 billion, attaining unicorn status. Animoca Brands, Helix, and Hedera will develop a non-fungible token-based soccer game that will utilize the intellectual property of famous soccer clubs under license to Animoca Brands. The game will feature tradable NFTs that will be backed by HBAR. NFTs that are backed by HBAR will be redeemable for HBAR after a cooldown period, representing the first time that a recognized NFT will be redeemable for a fixed and guaranteed amount of an underlying crypto asset. Animoca Brands, Helix, and Hedera will also collaborate to develop and launch Helix Warp, an independent and distributed online gaming platform. The mission is to create a fair and decentralized ecosystem of gaming-related products and services to combat the chronic problem of cheating in online multiplayer games. Helix Warp will counteract cheating by creating a server-side simulation environment and leveraging the Hedera consensus service to record results. Game developers will be able to plug into Helix Warp and deploy hack-resistant leaderboards in their games. Helix Warp will target HTML5 games to begin with and utilize Helix Warp token to underpin the ecosystem. The Hedera consensus service and Hedera token service will be used as foundational technology layers for both projects. One use case with some of the biggest potential comes from Hedera Council member Avery Dennison, called Atma.io. Avery Dennison is a manufacturer of RFID inlays. These inlays can be used to scan the products from production all the way through the supply chain to the consumer. It's a cloud-based system that creates digital identities or digital twins for the products, so consumers, or anyone else for that matter, can track the provenance of those products. It sounds like the perfect use case for our online notary, the Hedera Consensus Service, and Atma.io will use HCS to provide an additional layer of trust. In the following promotional video, you can hear the excitement from the creators.
If I could sum up Atma.io in just one word, it would be trust.
Transparency. Infinity.
Future.
Atma.io bridges the world between physical objects and the digital domain.
The ability to provide product information to anyone, anywhere in the world.
The brand can engage with the consumers via the product.
Our users can just kind of add on applications that are relevant for their new use cases.
Imagine being able to, as a consumer, trace an item all the way back to the raw material. Imagine as a pharmaceutical company or as a healthcare provider to be able to track the temperature of each vaccine vial every step of the way. And then imagine if you're a restaurant or a retailer to know when your food is expiring and when you need to recall produce. All of that's possible in the Atma.io Connected Product Cloud.
Having Atma.io allows us to evolve our solutions to the future. We can actually make connected products be the interface between brands and the consumers.
We are in the pole position to drive sustainability, providing traceability from source to the consumer.
The idea is that we're connecting the dots across the product's life cycle.
Only when we know what we're doing and people are accountable for it, we will be able to act more sustainably and treat lighter on our planet. The Atma.io team is made up of a group of really passionate and driven people across the globe.
The team is extremely collaborative, innovative, very agile.
What we're building is a global, highly scalable solution. You can only achieve this with a diverse team.
The future of Atma.io will be one where it will become an essential part of everything we do within Avery Dennison.
With tens of trillions of events being captured, we can know so much more about our planet, about the companies that we purchase products from, and about every single industry so that we can be more efficient, more sustainable, and more trusted.
You heard him right. Avery Dennison is expecting trillions of events to be generated by this use case. In early March, we gained a new council member, French utility giant EDF, and what was different about their council member announcement was it came with a use case. According to the principal researcher at EDF, they're planning on leveraging tokenization on Hedera to create a carbon offset and credit system, which is in line with the company's goal of cutting CO2 emissions. He went on to say, in the near future, distributed computing will support increasingly decentralized electrical systems, complex supply chains, and exchanges of digital assets, energy certificates, GHG credits, and more. Multiple pieces of the distributed ledger technology ecosystem will form the puzzle pieces that make this vision a reality. So now we move on from council member use cases to a startup called Hala Systems that Mark Cuban invested $1 million in. Hala Systems is about as humanitarian a use case as you can find in the DLT space. I will let their director of engineering explain this amazingly important application that has recently moved to Hedera from the Ethereum blockchain.
Hi, I'm Bellamy Hanoyan, and I'm director of engineering at Hala Systems. Hala Systems is a company that builds technology with the goal of saving civilian lives in conflict zones. So we have a network of observers on the ground that are using the apps to report the airstrike data or aircraft data. We have an additional suite of apps for civilians. We have sensors on the ground, and we scrape open media data. So we gather all of that data, and then you can see it on our Insight portal and our data visualization tool. And then when we have detected an airstrike that we should be predicting on, we have a network of air raid sirens and buzzers and lights and things like that in hospitals and schools. And those all go off if necessary when there's an alert. And then the goal is that the civilians on the ground will hear those alerts before the airstrike actually occurs. And we have to ensure that the data that they are providing us is trustworthy and will be trusted by accountability organizations later on. In deciding on a blockchain partner for the Verify module, we chose IBM Hyperledger and Hedera Consensus Service. The demos were very easy to follow, even for non-technical people, which helped us convince everyone else on the team, not just the developers. And then the developer support, when we started digging into how the mirror nodes work and the open source SDKs that they were building, that convinced the developers of it too. And their amazing development team was able to help us configure our code and share code with us to get their SDKs working with AWS Lambda. We can ensure that our data is reliable and trustworthy through a permissioned and more public way, while still having some oversight and some confidence in our data. And so using that that cutting edge technology in a way that can save people's lives at a startup is really incredible to me, and is, Hala is like perfectly positioned to make those great technical strides. So it is amazing to go to work every day and work with people that are so dedicated to helping people in the worst situations, that are having their lives, at stake every day, and having the opportunity to write code that could potentially save someone's life is incredible, and more than I could have asked for in a job. You really know that what you're working on is important, that what the code that you're writing is going to be used and is going to be impactful for the people on the ground in the conflict zones, and that was really important to me.
Next, let's look at something you can use today. KPay is a super easy way to tip using Hedera's HBAR token. Here's a quick video showing how easy it is to monetize your own YouTube video.
In the previous video, we opened a brand new Hedera account. The account is empty. How can we earn some money? We can earn tips for any online content, for example, YouTube videos. To do this, we start by visiting kpay.live/tip. We enter our account number here. Now we need some content to earn tips on. Here is an example. We copy the URL and paste it here. We choose the minimum tip amount. Visitors can send more than this by simply tapping the tipping button multiple times. Optionally, we can enter a coupon code which gives visitors some free credit to tip us. Contact KPay to apply for a coupon. Here we will use one which gives visitors $1. We then click Create Link. A message appears which reads, "To receive tips for this video or live stream, the video owner should include their Hedera account number in the description of the video." We do this by going to the YouTube video page and clicking on Edit Video. We then include our new account number anywhere in the description. And hit Save. Back on the tipping page, we refresh the page, and the tipping button is now active. Share the link so anyone can tip you instantly. No login is required. Credit is simply held on the browser and can be spent on any KPay-enabled content. Happy tipping, everyone!
The ease of use of the KPay proof of concept is a testament to its developers. KPay is also exploring monetizing ebooks, but instead of having to pay $7.99 for an entire book, again, KPay utilizes micropayments. Readers can pay by the page, or as KPay describes it, as the reader turns the page, the author gets paid. And it seems like developers using Hedera to facilitate micropayments are multiplying. Here's another one from Dropp.
Imagine a future where your business can reach an endless customer base and open the door to new limitless revenue streams. That future is Dropp, the platform service offering a simple, secure, and convenient pay-per-use approach to small-value transactions. Subscription-based models have become oversaturated, and consumers are looking to limit their financial commitments to these services. Dropp's unique approach helps you engage with this demographic by providing them a platform to make secure, pay-per-use purchases of your digital and physical goods. Whether you offer media, cloud data, or any IoT services, Dropp gives you access to millions of new customers by offering them targeted one-time private purchases. And these transactions add up, all while keeping transaction fees well below industry standards and transferring the funds to your business the same day. With Dropp, you're creating new revenue streams for products you already offer and opening the door to customers who otherwise would have been left behind. Join us as Dropp becomes the global payment system for small value transactions. Simple, secure, convenient. Dropp. For more information, go to dropp.cc.
The startup Everyware is using HCS right now to track coronavirus vaccine temperatures in the UK, a task that used to require a nurse to complete manually. Acore, another company that is improving the healthcare industry, are currently using the Hedera Consensus service to verify coronavirus data from many sources including the CDC, WHO, Google Trends, and others, which then provides a single source of truth for healthcare professionals. Acore is working with Safe Health Systems to develop a leading healthcare platform used by Delta Airlines, Arizona State University, the Mayo Clinic, and others. This platform serves over 150,000 users for rapid deployment of health applications to reduce cost and improve outcomes, all using Hedera to add trust and efficiency. And it looks like Acore isn't limited to just the healthcare industry. They did a cool proof of concept verifying active flight data using HCS called FlightHash. You can go to flighthash.com right now to monitor the flights in the skies around Atlanta. The Coupon Bureau's HCS application is another one that has Hederians excited because of the sheer volume of events it must track. It's been said that the new Universal Digital Coupon could add thousands of transactions per second to the network, which equates to hundreds of millions of transactions per day, while they combat fraud and add efficiency to the coupon industry. Less fraud has a direct impact on consumers because reducing losses from fraud can allow for more valuable coupons. This in turn will cause more coupon usage and products purchased, benefiting manufacturers and retailers, creating a positive feedback loop expanding the coupon industry, and more importantly for the HBAR, adding transactions to the network. I hope we have some wine drinkers out there, because Entrust is using Hedera to ensure you get what you pay for. Taking expensive, used wine bottles and filling them with cheap wine is one of many scams in the wine industry. Entrust combats over $3 billion worth of fraud in this industry via its simple, immutable record-keeping data interface and infrastructure. A beta version to test every stage of product sourcing, processing, and packaging is being trialed using HCS. In the 2020 Australian vintage, more than a dozen of Clare Valley's major wine companies captured more than 250,000 liters of wine in the world's largest wine provenance distributed ledger trial. The system uses a chip in the cap or cork that records information, including if it's been tampered with. This can then be scanned at each part of the supply chain. Entrust is also planning on moving into the dairy, beef, and wool sectors as well. Eftpos flipped the council member script a bit by having a use case before becoming a council member. They announced an Aussie dollar stablecoin and micropayments proof of concept in the summer of 2020, and apparently were so taken with Hedera that they decided they wanted to help govern the network and became a council member in early 2021. Here's Eftpos entrepreneur in residence and fellow Hederian, Rob Allen, to explain.
Eftpos are Australia's national infrastructure for debit cards. So every card issued, usually bank issued cards, pretty much all of them have an Eftpos logo on it as well. So it might be a Visa or MasterCard card, but it's also an Eftpos card. And in Australia, you're right, it's ubiquitous. The Eftpos is a verb. People talk about paying with Eftpos. Okay, so what we announced this week was a partnership between Hedera and Eftpos. As part of our payments innovation initiatives, which I've mentioned previously, we're going to be focusing on micropayments as a use case. We're going to be bringing together a lot of the great code that has been made available by Hedera through its repositories, through its experiments, and the example code that's made available. And we're going to use the paywall killer and subscription service use case so that a consumer can interact with an online content provider and consent either to receive marketing material or the normal spam that you get for accessing some content, or pay for that access with a digital Australian dollar stablecoin. So that manifests itself in a wallet with the potential to top up an account, which is denominated in Australian dollars, and then make payments at the cent or sub-cent level for access to online services.
The stable dollar you mentioned. Is this something that is being developed specifically for this proof of concept, or is this something that has been in the works otherwise, or?
This is something new for us, but it'll be drawing heavily on some of that great stuff that we saw recently on the the tokenization series that I think Cooper and Tim McHale offered up. I've been building stablecoins for a number of years, and I truly, a stablecoin has to be fully backed, otherwise it's not stable. So the stablecoin we'll be using will be fully backed by Australian dollars. So if it says I've got $10 in my account, that's fully backed by $10 that I've purchased. Under the covers, it'll be using the tokenization service and the HBAR as fuel.
And Eftpos isn't stopping there. They're exploring other use cases. Here's another recent quote from Mr. Allen. We're going to be looking at smart cities. We're going to be looking at autonomous vehicles and things we haven't even thought about yet. All this needs new infrastructure, and Eftpos needs to be informed by that. Hedera is the only next-generation network that can support those kind of use cases, so we wanted to test it, and it operated beautifully. Now, because we've got this digital strategy, we are in a position where we can start looking at ways that problems can be solved in a way that may be non-traditional and more distributed. The music industry is ripe for disruption again, and here's Andrew and Brian Antar to explain how they are powering TuneFM with Hedera Token Service to shake up the music industry.
There's always this notion of the starving musician. People assume that musicians never made any money, but that was the truth because musicians are always getting screwed over. We wanted to create a way that would democratize access to music distribution for everyone, where literally anybody in the world could upload their music and sell for whatever price they want or stream for free. And we always wanted a way to monetize streaming.
We put them in music when they were around 4 and 5 years old. We thought of music as a sort of discipline, of working really hard to achieve something.
I was talking to my dad and he was like, I think Brian's working on a music website. I was like, no, you're confusing it. I'm the one actually working on a music website. You have it all wrong. He's like, no, actually, I think he's actually working on one. You should probably talk to him.
So we did. When we built our micropayment system, we knew it wasn't going to be viable for people to make money. The bank and the credit card, they all take their fees, and they're very high. And when someone's selling a song for 25 cents, you can't transfer pennies around with our existing system. And you should be able to. It's money. If someone wants to give you a penny, they should be able to give you a penny.
We needed something that was super fast, virtually no fees, and a public ledger. And that didn't exist. I stumbled upon Hashgraph, and it immediately clicked that this was exactly the technology that would enable us to do what we wanted. And without Hashgraph, it was basically impossible. Hedera Hashgraph enables us to build a dApp with an integrated utility token that can power micropayments directly from fans to artists.
Someone can stream the song, and that artist gets compensated immediately with 90% right into their wallet. And, you know, it's game changing.
Being able to be paid immediately per stream makes all the difference. It motivates you to keep getting people to listen to your music. We want to be able to get the money back, get it quickly so that we can put that money back into our business. To be able to get it like that is everything.
I think for musicians, the future is very bright. And in the future, you'll be able to put your music out there and earn a living just based on your creativity.
Seun Water uses HCS to solve a critical and dangerous problem that's been plaguing the world for decades. The Seun Water systems can continuously monitor water supplies using sensors. which then log their data using HCS. By using the Hedera Consensus Service, Seun can satisfy regulators and accreditation associations with a tamper-proof auditable trail of water data. Seun is reacting quickly to a crisis in Central California, where nitrates in the water supply have caused multiple shutdowns. Nitrates in water can cause brain damage, cancer, and is especially dangerous for infants. Seun is fitting nitrate monitors to its systems, which will start operations in several towns over the next few months. But Seun systems aren't only for potable water supplies. Closed-loop water systems used as heat exchangers in large HVAC systems, such as those found in hospitals, can carry harmful bacteria, and this causes serious problems when inevitable leaks develop. Some of the first deployments of the Seun water monitors will be used on these kinds of closed-loop systems. Like with Entrust, Seun is finding these verifiable trusted audit logs are necessary in all kinds of other applications that can reach far past their initial scope. And I'm excited to see what other use cases Seun Water will expand into. Many of you who watch the Hedera forum will be well aware of Toko, a platform being developed by one of the 5 original Hedera council members, DLA Piper, to tokenize a variety of assets. Here's some outtakes from the episode with DLA Piper partner Scott Teal to explain.
What we would like to do is to help our clients to do creative financing solutions using asset-backed securities in a way that will drive liquidity, new market participation, creative new ways of financing projects. And the thing that I think has probably surprised me the most as I've gone into this, because I sort of crashed into, wouldn't it be great if we could, tokenize everything and ultimately create, liquid secondary markets to enable trading of these asset-backed digital assets. And in a way, it's the way cryptocurrencies trade today, but with actually something behind them, because there's an open question around what is really behind Bitcoin. Nothing. So what we're talking about here is, well, we want to take something, and the piece of artwork obviously is an example and something of a test case that shows it. And a group of my partners here in Hong Kong have effectively invested and become fractional digital owners of a piece of this painting, each. And it's obviously it's not an enormously expensive piece of work or anything, exciting like that. It was really around proving the technology and the way it would work. And it's doing so, and we're still actually working through some of the processes around that. But to be able to fractionalize assets in a way that current markets don't provide. And as I've gone into this sort of journey of learning about what it is I don't know, about financial instruments, about securities regulation, about the way you go about listing things on a stock exchange in the traditional way, it's been overwhelming to me, the amount of opportunity that exists. And every time I learn something more, I go, really? That's the way it works? Couldn't you come up with something more time-consuming, less efficient, and more costly? Because if that was your ambition, that seems to be what you've created. And I mean, a lot of it's wrapped up in investor protections and regulation, and all these are absolutely valuable and essential parts of an effective market. But probably through the evolution of the way markets have evolved and the intermediaries and the way it was, there just seems to be a huge amount of friction points and inefficiencies and costs involved in a lot of this. So that's kind of our ambition, is how do we use this technology to create a new way of creating new markets where more people can participate. We actually used a non-fungible 721 format for this painting, and it's actually chopped up. The 721 allows you to put a picture into one of the token fields, and the 721 is a picture. So we actually chopped the painting up, or a picture of the painting. We fragmented into the 16 different pieces, and so each token is actually unique in that respect. It's 16. The economic interests and the rights associated with each token are identical, but each token actually has a different part of the painting. I happen to have the lighthouse bit, which I think is a good one. My IP partner Ed Chatterton got the horse's ass, which was just priceless. The lucky draw around that piece. But what was also interesting when we did this, we did do a lucky draw of the participants to get their piece. There was immediately a secondary market emerged. I want your piece.
What other types of assets do you see being some of the lower hanging fruit that could be a really good fit for this type of project?
I mean, I've mentioned real estate a few times, and it's a really obvious one. If you look at a catalogue of music, or indeed any other bundle of intellectual property rights, sporting franchises or individual sports personalities who want to fractionalize their own career, if you like. One thing that's happened after we launched Toko is a lot of people have rung us up and said, "Hey, we've got an asset or a project or something in mind." I've been amazed by the diversity of asset classes, and I won't go into details, but in general terms, there have been books of debt, there have been subsea deposits of minerals, there have been rare earths, diamonds, gold. There's all sorts of commodities. There's actually been a huge variety of assets that have come up.
The narrative Hedera detractors have been trying to push is that becoming a Hedera Governing Council member is just another partnership these enterprises have entered into on a whim, and won't be impactful for the usage of the network. This couldn't be further from the truth. If DLA Piper's Toko and Atom.io weren't enough to convince you, here's a representative from another Hedera Council member, Wipro, that should erase any doubt.
Are you working on building any applications either for customers or for yourselves that describe some of these projects?
Yeah, we are working on many of them actually. We are working with a wide variety of use cases across industries and customer segments. For example, in the area of clinical trials, we are collaborating with Hedera and a startup. The solution focuses on achieving provenance of data in clinical trials. Another one is one of our own solutions, which is focused on creating and managing verifiable credentials for devices. This use case sort of helps identifying devices using their credentials and links the records around device maintenance, standard operating procedures with the specific device. In pharma supply chain space, we have created solution focused on tracking pharmaceutical and veterinary drugs across its lab to launch process, cold chain tracking, and inventory management of drugs supplied across multiple countries, and therefore providing end-to-end visibility of drugs at unit level right from the source to the point of consumption. So we are seeing many interesting use cases, and some of them we are building them as our own frameworks and platforms, and some of them are for our customers.
Is Wipro consulting their customers on using Hedera Hashgraph technology for applications then? It sounds like you're working closely with some folks that are interested in using this technology. Is that right?
We can't quote customer names as of now, but we're very deeply involved in consulting our customers on using Hedera Hashgraph technology. Some of the areas we spoke about, we are working with our customers on provenance of data, including during clinical trial of drugs, especially in the COVID scenario. You understand how relevant that is. The other area we are working very closely with is in an identity and credential space for devices. We are again working with a very large medical device manufacturer to do that for ventilators to start with. Then digital asset tokenization, central bank digital currency. These are a few of the use cases which are seeing a lot of interest in the market by our customers.
Excellent. I know you can't give us any company names at this time, but are there other application use cases that you think are useful to use Hedera for that you can speak to? Things that have been requested by other customers that maybe you'll jump into within the next year?
Yeah, we are seeing a lot of interest around energy and utilities sector, especially around renewable energy, with the focus on sustainability and net zero footprint, carbon footprint. We have helped one of our customers, a major oil and gas major, to set up a P2P trading platform for solar energy. I think those are the use cases which would be very interesting. We were able to reduce about 55 tons of carbon emission by implementing this for our customer. Similarly, for a large European customer, we are helping them set up an LNG trading marketplace for small trading business. This would lead to a completely new line of business for that company because they're not really into small scale trading as of now. So it will be a new revenue stream for them, right? And then one of the most interesting applications we have developed recently was focusing around tracking the vehicle components across the supply chain. This was done for a leading global automotive parts manufacturer. This application is being currently used to track about 500,000 auto parts per year. And its plan is to expand, cover parts tracking across 150 sites. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff happening on blockchain in the industry.
Next, anyone on the Hedera Hashgraph HBAR community chat in Telegram is well aware of the HBAR Chat Bot. This is another application that highlights how efficient Hedera is with micropayments. Community members can upvote quality posts and comments and increase each other's reputation. As their reputation increases above 10 points, they start to earn HBAR for subsequent upvotes. Some community members with high reputations can earn several HBAR per reputation point. The HBAR chatbot is funded through sponsors. You can register now, so stop by the chat if you want to see how it all works. AdsDax is currently the largest contributor to the Hedera network, and they actually broke the world record for DLT transaction speed being utilized for a real-world application. They are a self-service advertising platform that leverages Hedera Consensus Service to fix problems for advertisers, ad agencies, brands, and publishers. What's exciting about AdsDax is they're trying to solve a problem that is critical to the largest member of the Hedera Council by market cap, Google. I hope to see Google using or maybe even acquiring this exciting startup in the future. Power Transition is a microgrid management platform to transform how energy is used, managed, and traded by governments, businesses, and individuals. And we have another great clip to explain what they are doing in more detail.
We're incredibly dependent on electricity in every aspect of our lives. I don't think we understand how vulnerable that makes us. There's a massive concentration of energy sources. I mean, from power stations, purchasing energy from foreign countries. It's very hard to predict the cost of the future of energy. Renewable energy microgrids provides societal, environmental, and financial incentives for individuals and the communities they live in to control and manage their energy.
I had a concept of looking at rooftop energy production from housing associations, individual houses and businesses. You could use the combined generation along with battery storage, then trade energy between the individual buildings.
The UK's national power grid has a problem essentially. It was designed for one-directional delivery of power from centralised generation to local consumption. But these days, with homes like the ones we're building, where you've got decentralised generation, power needs to move in two directions, with the grid and with other homes.
All microgrid technology developers will eventually run up against the same problems if they're using traditional blockchain technologies to manage their microgrids. There simply isn't enough bandwidth to do the number of transactions needed, and the amount of energy required for those transactions will get to a point where you're negating the energy benefit from running a microgrid.
Hedera is the only platform we've come across that can cope with the volume of transactions that need to take place. These are split-second transactions that are happening thousands of times to enable that local generation to be fed into a system that wasn't designed for it in the first place.
Each home is going to generate electricity and it's going to be tokenized and stored in the Hedera virtual wallets. And from that point, homeowners are at liberty to trade peer-to-peer with other members of the Hedera network. Governments had a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to cryptocurrencies and the technology behind it. But our product using Hedera specializes in structured data reporting. We have two database architectures, and the analytics are extracted automatically from these databases. They provide tailored reports for various types of stakeholders. Government regulators require structured data reporting, and we could provide it for them directly, automatically.
This project is about mass empowerment and democratization of energy. By the implementation of microgrids and using Hedera Hashgraph, what we're able to do is give something back to the people that use the energy, wherever they may be in the world.
In a world where deepfakes has made it hard to trust even your own eyes, Project Starling is using Hedera to address what has been a growing problem.
When you see people from all different parts of the world voting in a free election, I think that that's not something that can be taken lightly or taken for granted. My name is Lucy Nicholson. I'm a Reuters photojournalist and I'm based in Los Angeles. There's been a lot of issues around disinformation in elections. So today we're experimenting with new tools to establish the provenance of photos and to make them more trusted by the public.
We live in an era in which fake news is something that we've all had to contend with. And journalists have been really caught in the crossfire of all sorts of different political debates around what is actually authentic news. 73% of Americans believe that the data that they see online is something that just can't be trusted at all. We are deeply concerned about that. If people can't trust the data that they see, then how can they possibly create trust between themselves? The Starling Framework for Data Integrity is a comprehensive set of tools and principles that allow organizations to securely capture, store, and verify human history. Starling is a joint project co-founded by the USC Shoah Foundation and Stanford's Department of Electrical Engineering. Our goal is to help restore confidence in our digital imagery. Today, we're at a turning point. New technologies are changing the way we consume media, and governments are beginning to write new laws to deal with manipulated images and video. Things are moving so quickly, and we knew we had to respond. With this case study for the Starling framework, we sought to test in the real world how cryptography can be used to establish the authenticity of an image. And to do this, we began a relationship with Reuters to explore how a series of prototypes could help the work that their photographers bravely do every day in creating photos for the Reuters newswire.
Today was the California primary. And so we were visiting many different polling stations around Los Angeles and photographing people voting. The polling stations in California are open to the media, and we're allowed to view everything that's going on. We're not allowed to photograph people's actual ballots, but everything else that they're doing within the polling station, we're allowed to photograph. It's important to document all parts of the electoral process in free elections because it's important to have transparency. Today I was using a Starling capture phone in addition to my Canon camera. The phone simultaneously will hash the image, it will hash the metadata, the barometer, the gyroscope, the GPS data, and send all this information to Reuters. What this process does is it creates a chain that shows this photo was taken in exactly the place that we say it was taken. This has a lot of relevance for photos it's taken in war zones, for example, or taken in countries where elections are less trusted. It basically just creates an extra layer of trust around a process which is very much in question at the moment.
The tools that we are developing are meant to address these issues head-on. We use next-generation protocols from Filecoin and IPFS to transmit the photos and then securely store them with advanced cryptographic proofs. This establishes the integrity of the data from the field all the way up to the newsroom. We then used IBM Hyperledger Fabric and the Hedera Hashgraph to create a system for Reuters editors to log on an immutable ledger every change made to a photograph before it's published, and then deployed a decentralized gun database to allow millions to access these records. All of these assertions around the time, date, and the location of the image are embedded and encrypted directly within the file itself to clarify it, to give it context, and to make fact-checkers' jobs far easier. Our case study helped us learn about how cryptography can be used to help preserve the safety and the privacy of journalists, and also how those methods need to remain open and transparent, especially as cryptography is starting to be embedded directly on the hardware of devices. We've been able to take these lessons and apply them to things like the Content Authenticity Initiative, which is setting new standards for content attribution. The most important thing we learned is that while cryptographic ledgers are helpful, there's also a danger. You don't want to create a single central ledger that somehow represents the truth. The architecture of any authentication system should be decentralized to allow as many fact checkers as possible to do their job. That way, one photo can be supported by a network of trusted knowledge, and each source can remain independent. We need to ensure that innovation is used to help people securely get the most amount of information, but then allows them to come to their own informed conclusions and see multiple points of view. The stakes are high, and as we worked with photojournalists like Lucy Nicholson, we learned a lot from the ethics that drive her work, and we refined our prototypes with these learnings. We're using our tools for an important goal: to preserve the integrity of elections and to ensure that no voice is suppressed and no method of legal voting is invalidated. These photos are records of the essential moment of democracy, and they need to remain untampered with and trusted.
Most of the elections I've covered in California have had quite a heavy turnout. Late in the evening, people will come from their jobs and wait in line for a really long time, quite patiently, in order to cast their ballot. People are very dedicated to the process. I see the importance of institutions. I see the importance of trust amongst communities. And I think that can easily be eroded, and it's not something we should ever take for granted.
AVS Global, a leading-edge supply chain platform with track and trace technology and supply chain financing available through an integrated DLT-based fintech platform and its Bahrain-based subsidiary Medical Value Chain, announced a strategic technology integration with Hedera recently. AVS Global has one end goal in mind: to provide a quantum leap in how supply chains perform intelligently, providing the right product at the right time in the right place, across industries and borders, while optimizing cash flow across the supply chain, reducing risk and fraud, and they are using Hedera to do it. Manetu is a company that's trying to address the many data privacy laws and regulations that are being enacted throughout the world. Some high-profile examples include GDPR and the California Consumer Protection Act, but similar regulations are in place in Brazil, India, and elsewhere. These laws require action by enterprises holding personal data to edit or revoke that data when requested by customers. Before Manetu, this was a manual process, triggered when the request was made by an individual, and the data would take on average 15 hours to collect per request. What Manetu has done is to automate the entire process of data discovery, data mapping, and aggregation of that data into a single source of truth and data master, and then flip the control so that the consumer can alter as required. Essentially a self-service model. Manetu again uses Hedera Consensus Service as a notary, so that when a consumer takes certain actions around their data, they know that it's been recorded in a tamper-proof way, and can verify as needed on a Hedera Explorer such as Kabuto, without publicly compromising their personal information. The CEO of Manetu was a former Global Chief Technology Architect for State Street Bank, and the Global Chief Innovation Officer at the London Stock Exchange. Sounds like the kind of guy who knows how to do his due diligence on new tech. Hyland, a company that is used by more than half of Fortune 100 companies, recently presented a proof of concept to the Texas Secretary of State on an electronic apostille system which could leverage Hedera to verify government-issued records. IBM isn't using Hedera for a single use case, but a DLT enterprise framework that businesses can use to create their own applications. You already heard a few applications that utilize Hyperledger, including projects Starling and Hala. What follows is an explanation of HCS and how it works with Hyperledger Fabric.
Timestamping, putting timestamps on the things, and revocation, the ability to take things back out that an authority has attested to. So the timestamping is not a separate service, but every time you do something, every time you create a file, it gets a cryptographic timestamp, and all of the members of the network agreed on it. It's the consensus. It's a very strong kind of timestamp, not just one computer making it up. It's the whole group making it up together. And it isn't just one making it up and then everyone approves. It's everybody saying what time they received it and then taking the median. So it's a very strong kind of legally binding timestamp. And if you're legally required to publish something by noon on Tuesday, you put it in the file service and you get that timestamp and it proves you did it by noon on Tuesday. In a lot of ways, it's like a cryptographic timestamping service, where if you have some document, you give the service a hash of it and they give you a cryptographic timestamp on that hash. Do the same thing here. Just put a hash in our file and you have it. Or put a hash into a cryptocurrency transaction and you have it. And so it's not a separate service, but it's sort of something you get for free out of these three services. You have a timestamping service. Smart contract is a native service of our platform. Then on top of that, you build your various smart contracts, and you can build as many as you want, and they can do anything. They're written in a Turing-complete language. It means they can do anything. But of course, they run more slowly than a native service would run. For example, we have the native service of cryptocurrency with the HBARs, but you could also write a smart contract for an ERC20. And the ERC20 is doing the same thing as a cryptocurrency. But the native cryptocurrency is going to be faster than the smart contract, much faster. We can do thousands of cryptocurrencies per second. We're going to have, I think, 10,000 probably at launch at OA, We'll throttle it down to 10,000. It's much faster than that already in our test nets. And we are working to tune it. It'll be many tens of thousands. So the cryptocurrency is fast. Smart contracts are slow. They're a few a second. They're not very many. And so you can do anything in a smart contract, but it's not the same as a native service. And every ledger has this issue. Smart contracts, now some of them emphasize smart contracts and make them faster, but still a native service is faster. And so every ledger struggles with this question: what should we make to be our native services that give you all the advantages over just running a smart contract on top of a service? And everyone has to make that decision. But we would rather you make that decision. We would let you make that choice. And here's how. We're offering a fourth service now, native service called the consensus service. The consensus service, of course, is fast because it's a native service. And what it lets you do is build what is equivalent to new services. And I say you, developers, without talking to us, without us even knowing about it. Just like you can write a smart contract without talking to us. You can write your own service without talking to us. And your service lives on top of the consensus service. And your service runs at the speed of a native service. You can go to something simple and use Hedera to solve the problem. Hyperledger Fabric lets you do that. And so you can do this, and your little group has all the privacy of a Hyperledger Fabric private network, but you've got the trust of Hedera itself. To give you a better introduction to that, I am really excited that we have Brian Gross here. Brian Gross is Principal Product Manager at IBM, and he will now say a few words about how would you do this? What are the use cases for this? So go ahead, Brian. Please tell us more about this.
Thanks, Lehman. So my name is Brian Gross with IBM Blockchain, where I'm a Principal Product Manager for IBM Blockchain Platform, the leading platform for building, operating, and growing enterprise blockchain networks. For IBM, blockchain started in mid-2015 when clients really began asking us our opinion on blockchain and whether or not they should get involved in it. So we did some exploratory work and got really excited about it, but unfortunately we're not able to find a distributed ledger technology that was compatible with the requirements of business, primarily things like privacy and confidentiality. And that led us to start prototyping something that became known as Open Blockchain. And we donated the code, development resource, and intellectual property to the Linux Foundation Hyperledger project in early 2016. This early adoption and insight into blockchain by IBM has helped us become the recognized leader in blockchain for business. So our platform manages over 1,200 blockchain networks around the world. And more importantly, over 100 of these networks are live, creating blocks on the chain every day in real business processes with actual business partners. In the financial services sector, the public sector, retail, insurance, and manufacturing, there are hundreds of more use case examples, and we're still in the early days of understanding the potential. You can learn more about these use cases by going to ibm.com/blockchain. But today, let's start talking a little bit about how they go from concept to consortia to running network, and where in this process the Hedera Hashgraph consensus service can help. So I mentioned that the IBM blockchain platform is powered by Hyperledger Fabric. But one thing I want to call out is that Hyperledger Fabric is a framework or a toolkit, but it's not a running network like Hedera. It doesn't provide running services like the 4 services mentioned earlier by Lehman. So in order to get value from a Hyperledger Fabric network, a network operator must deploy nodes, start or join a network, and install and substantiate chain code. Now in this process, that network operator relies on 3 Fabric components, because Fabric is really built in this modular way where you can swap in and out these different components to meet your use case. The first component is a certificate authority that identifies organizations that participate in the network. The second component is a peer, which can represent your organization on the network. This peer can endorse transactions and run the network. But the third service, which is the one that's most interesting today, is the ordering service. And this service is the one that determines the fair order of transactions. Now, just to review, network operators do not have a lot of problems with CAs or deploying peers. Their use makes sense, and they need these components in order to provide the controls they need over their enterprise data and business logic. However, the ordering service can take some more time to understand, add some complexity in deploying, and is really where you need to make decisions like who's going to run the ordering service, how many nodes will I operate, and which consensus algorithms will back this order of transaction. Hedera, where network operators can access fair message ordering by 39 major companies without going through the effort and expense of deploying 5 RAF nodes or forming a consortium or running their own nodes.
Then the clients themselves, the people playing the game, submit their messages to Hedera. The people transferring their stablecoins submit it to Hedera, or the people doing the stock market submit their messages to Hedera, possibly encrypted the right way, possibly just hashes of those messages. You can talk about what security you need for your system. But whatever they do it to get the amount of privacy they want, the amount of security they want. And then it all comes back, and so you can have third parties validating your state proofs. So third parties can look at your state proof and know that you're telling the truth about what happened in your system over here. And so your system has the security and it has the speed, and then it has the reliability with third parties. And they can know you're telling the truth. As long as they believe that Hedera has more than 2/3 honest, they know you're telling the truth. They don't have to believe that you're honest. They don't have to believe that your little system over here, your game or your stock market, has more than 2/3 honest. If you're playing a game, probably not a good assumption they're more than 2/3 honest. Probably a better assumption that they're all dishonest. Who knows? But you don't have to trust. You get the enormous trust of Hedera, even if your small system is not trustworthy at all. You still have that trust, because third parties can validate the state proofs.
With Hedera, Joyn is planning on upending the social media business model. Here's a quick explanation.
The first thing that makes Joyn different is that we're building on revolutionary decentralized technology, Hedera Hashgraph, and what that allows us to do is both pay our users in real time for consuming advertisements in our native cryptocurrency Joyn tokens, whilst at the same time protecting the privacy of those users. And that's Joyn's core innovation. We have solved the problem at the intersection of targeted advertising and privacy, which means that we can pay our users to use our platform whilst also protecting their privacy. And that's the difference between Joyn and Hedera Hashgraph and Facebook. Facebook offer a free product with a non-privacy friendly ad model where they sell your data to tens of thousands of people. On Joyn, we're paying you and rewarding you for the ads that you consume whilst also protecting your privacy in the process. So in this way, We have created the solution that European and US regulators in their lawsuits against Facebook for being a data monopoly, we've addressed those concerns and we are ready to absorb the advertiser revenue that Facebook is currently taking in order to deliver a better ethical alternative to social media.
We've discussed that the Hedera tokenization service has recently come out and allows the creation of tokens of all types. Hedera Hackathon prize winner, GoMint, makes it easy for you to tokenize and monetize digital content and potentially any real-world asset. Calaxy is trying to empower creators and enable fans to interact with them in new and innovative ways. Here's some further discussion from CTO Cooper Coons and founder Spencer Dinwiddie.
So at the 10,000-foot view, for anyone who's not familiar, Calaxy is a platform for personal monetization, specifically hoping to empower the future of content creators. Whether you're an athlete, an artist, a musician, a celebrity, a model, we're really in the rise of what we see as the creator economy and specifically the creator middle class. We like to talk about how you can walk down the street in New York or San Francisco, walk past someone with 500,000, 1 million Instagram or Twitter followers who just doesn't yet have an effective toolkit for monetizing that type of engagement or that type of content that they're able to create and distribute. Obviously, those people have a dedicated community of followers already. And we just think that they're currently underserved in the tools that they have to personally monetize and basically be their own means of, for lack of a better phrase, creating their own economies within that community. And so what we do at Calaxy is we are building a decentralized protocol for personal monetization built around the concept of social or personal tokens. And Calaxy is building an application on top of that blockchain-based protocol. Obviously, I'm talking as most of the audience cares and or knows about what blockchain protocols are. But Calaxy builds an application layer for that protocol that makes it really easy for content creators to make social tokens and to set up familiar activities to use those social tokens with. So everything from paid Cameo-like video messages to Patreon-like subscription services, you're able to do really easily within the Calaxy applications, and it's all facilitated by your own personalized social tokens.
But when it came time to kind of build a platform and circle back, we looked at various different layer ones, Tezos, Algorand, all those, and spoke with the various internal teams or councils. And really, there just wasn't anything as robust as Hedera. Looking at the BFT, like just all the things in terms of coming to finality, their ability to handle transactions per second, and near infinite transactions per second if you include sharding and just all that stuff. It made it kind of an easy choice, and also to align yourself with, some of the people that are on the council in terms of Fortune 500 companies. I think decentralization is something that's going to come with a pragmatic approach. I think Hedera is approaching it in that manner versus just thinking that's going to be death to all, legacy systems. They didn't come into power just to give it all away. You know what I mean? Like immediately. I think decentralization will kind of come in waves and like I said, pragmatically. So just a big fan of Hedera in terms of the comprehensiveness of how they build their ecosystem and the math and technology behind it.
For anyone that made it through that marathon, congratulations. Hedera has an overwhelming amount of information to cover, but the scary thing is, I think we're just getting started. We've mentioned in the past that the HBAR has 3 paths that it can follow to become a successful investment. Let's call them the 3 legs of the HBAR Bull Case, each of which has the potential to increase the price by an order of magnitude. The first was the potential for crypto to enter a bull market, and as they say, a rising tide lifts all boats. And HBAR has increased by an order of magnitude in just the past several months. The second leg is if an effective speculative narrative builds around Hedera. I would argue the Dogecoin has actually bagged the first two, being in a broader crypto bull market and creating a speculative narrative around being the meme coin. And from the cycle lows, Doge increased by 2 orders of magnitude. I believe Hedera can easily build its own speculative narrative, but hasn't done so quite yet. The final leg is if Hedera is successful in becoming the trust layer of the internet, and regardless if speculators buy in, investors will flock to participate in the revenue generation of an uncorrelated asset. Well, that's it. Thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe if you want to stay up to date with Hedera news and events.